Are you a woman between the ages of 45 and 65 in that midlife stage? Maybe just entering perimenopause. Feeling a bit stuck in life. Maybe thrown into the throes of perimenopause, having no idea what to expect and being completely surprised by what is going on in your body. Welcome to Revive and Thrive, a podcast about life in the middle. Here we will talk about the struggles of midlife, the challenges, the victories, the wisdom, all of it. So stay tuned for this upcoming episode about why I am so tired. Why am I so tired? If you are constantly battling fatigue, hitting snooze on life, or wondering why your energy has gone MIA, there could be multiple reasons, and you certainly aren't alone. It's a very common pattern, feeling that we go through in both perimenopause and even into menopause. There are a lot of things that you can do, or solutions, practices that you can implement to actually make this so much easier. You are not stuck. You are not at a loss of options. So let's break down the physical, mental, and emotional reasons behind exhaustion, and most importantly, how you can reclaim your vitality again. Because it is possible during this stage in life when there is a lot of fluctuation going on. So let's start with, what is fatigue? It is a big word, but let's get really clear. It's not just about being sleepy after a late night. It's this persistent lack of energy that doesn't go away. It doesn't even go away if you do sleep all night long. It weighs you down, it drags you down. The feeling sort of permeates every aspect of your life. You can tell you're not making even really good decisions. You can feel it when you're driving down the road. And it's not just this, oh, I'm really tired, I need a nap feeling. It's deep. It's profound. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Well, let's break this down even more. Let's talk about the physical symptoms first. Or maybe not the symptoms so much, but the culprits. So first of all, let's talk about sleep issues. Poor quality of sleep, sleep apnea or insomnia are very popular in our society. We move fast and we do a lot in the day. And we beat ourselves up if we don't. We don't feel worthy if we don't move at the high speed that we have expected from ourselves and from the expectations that others place on us. If you are experiencing these sleep issues, they will absolutely drain you. And there's multiple health problems that can go on if we don't look at them and pay attention to changing these patterns in our life. That's number one. Number two is nutritional deficiencies. Vitamin B12 could be deficient. Vitamin D, you could have low iron. Those physical issues are pretty popular when it comes to looking at problems with our sleep. We're not going to go super deep into nutritional deficiencies. You can be seen by your healthcare provider and ask for blood tests to be done to see if that is in fact something that you're experiencing. There are ways that you can change that without pharmaceutical intervention. I am going to talk about that in some of my later podcasts because I love nutrition and it was a really big deal to me when I was in perimenopause. But today we're going to stick with just sleep. The third one, the really big one, is hormonal changes. Most of us know or have some awareness that we're going through hormonal changes at this phase in our life. And we know that our estrogen and our progesterone are dancing with each other. And then you add the addition of stress hormones to all of that, and you throw this into a big pot, and your body is exhausted. But I'm telling you, there are things that you can do to lessen the exhaustion. And then the fourth one is chronic illness, another very popular sleep interrupter. It could be hypothyroidism, which can be common in women in her menopausal years. It can be diabetes, another common disease in our culture. It can be just simply chronic fatigue from adrenal exhaustion. So those are the physical culprits. Now we're going to talk about the emotional culprits or reasons that I think in large part have a lot to do with being so tired. Emotional and mental toll of sleep disturbances or not sleeping all night long. Like what happens to us emotionally when we don't get a good night's sleep. We must look at what is happening to our emotions based on the lack of sleep. So the emotional and mental toll is the one I really get excited about, probably because this was something really big in my life when I was at the midst or at the beginning of perimenopause. And that is unresolved or unprocessed emotions. I think this, when looked at and when digested, can override the physical symptoms that we experience in our midlife transition. So what do I mean by unresolved and unprocessed emotions? That can be sadness, it could be anger, it could be anxiety, it could be our marriage, it can be our friendships, it can be our career. All of those things matter. It is very conditioned in us as women, and it lies under the surface of our awareness so critically that we don't even recognize that we do a lot in one day, right? We overcommit, we overdo, we take on so much in just a day. And when we're younger, that may be easy to multitask and to juggle a lot of things and take our children to multiple activities in a day. But you hit midlife and your emotions go on this roller coaster ride, and fatigue is going to get your attention. It's going to show up physically, probably knock on your door physically first. And if not addressed, I believe the physical symptoms become worse. Many times with my clients, we will start with looking at all the things that they feel like they have to do or they're supposed to do. And we will start to rearrange, so to speak, those activities in their life. And in large part, minimize them or eliminate them and start asking for help, which is a big deal for a lot of women who feel like they have to do it all. But I'm telling you, the changes that they see in their life when they begin to look deeply, like under the surface of the things that are zapping their vitality, they realize that when they start to make small changes, big changes happen on the other side of that. Some other things that I often share are practices from my background as a yogi and a shaman. And one of the big ones, or big two actually, is yoga nidra, or I call it deep transformational rest and meditation. So I would like to speak just briefly about these two. Yoga nidra is often called yogic sleep. It is often guided, and it is a practice where you lay on your back and you get so comfortable you didn't know you could get this comfortable. And an instructor will take you through a practice of yoga nidra, where we, through the practice of breathing and releasing and relaxing and letting go, like literally almost leaving the physical body, you start to change your level of awareness. Your brain waves start to change, and you start to slip into what we call theta brain waves. And this is when you're still aware of what's happening, but you can access something deeper inside. And the journey is to take you there so that you can rest deeply and often come back with an answered message. Most of us are familiar with meditation. And here's what I'd like to say about meditation. It is a big thing these days. A lot of people talk about it, and for very good reason. But often, again, the people I work with come to me and they will say, I know I should meditate, but I just can't stop my mind. I just can't sit there that long. Well, clearly these are the people that should be meditating. But to take them from being in this high activity, overwhelm, overcommitting, overdoing, juggling multiple things in their life to meditation is really difficult. So again, I will often guide them through meditation, because being guided gives them something to focus on instead of their own thoughts, and they can start to slowly let go of things. I often give guided meditations in my membership course called Embrace the Change. We have a meditation hour once a month where we all get together and we just go into silence and I guide them through a meditation. And it is literally like sleeping for 8 hours. And yoga nidra is the same way. Here's the other thing I just want to throw into this podcast is yoga nidra, or deep transformative sleep, and meditation show up in every one of my retreats. So often people go on retreat or go on vacation because they're exhausted and they need a break from their daily commitments. And I get that. But one of the things we really work on is your daily commitments. I really am a big believer that going on vacation or going on a retreat shouldn't be an escape route. It should be a reprogramming to get your life back in line with what you really desire and to live more consciously. Okay, so let's look at some of the everyday factors that may be contributing to fatigue, ongoing fatigue. Even though I've sort of lightly mentioned on them, I want to point out a few that I think are really important. One being caffeine. I love coffee, and the only time I gave up coffee is when I was pregnant, because I couldn't tolerate it. But I also noticed that when I decreased my caffeine intake, not just coffee, complete caffeine intake during my perimenopausal and menopausal years, like even today, I love coffee, but I drink a lot less. I can't even tolerate more than a cup a day. Occasionally I'll have an afternoon cup, but not very often. So I'm telling you, decreasing your caffeine overload will make a significant difference on the fluctuations and the dance of the hormonal changes that you're going through in midlife. That's number one. Number two is lack of movement. This is probably not new news to you if you are in midlife or you've been experiencing symptoms of midlife. Exercise is an absolute game changer when you are at that stage of your life. I entered perimenopause, and the physical symptoms and the emotional burden that I was carrying with me in that time in my life made physical movement much more difficult. And then, of course, I had monthly migraines, so that all would sort of throw me off, in addition to the heavy bleeding and other physical symptoms. However, when I decided that I needed to look at what my exercise or my movement routine looked like and change it to fit where I was in my life, did I start to notice positive changes. So I couldn't kill myself like I was before. Like I used to lift. I used to have a personal trainer and lift really heavy. I was very determined. I was very fit. I used to be a personal trainer myself. But I realized with these changes, my body was responding differently to physical movement. So yoga felt good, but I couldn't do hot yoga and I couldn't do deep, holding, stretchy poses. I needed to back off a little bit. Pilates felt amazing. Weightlifting felt good as long as I didn't push too hard. And then I just decided that I was going to back off on my cardio. I walk every day for an hour at least, sometimes more. And I just take my dog on a walk and count that in. And now I do anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes of cardio, and I'll do some interval training. So I'll kind of mix it up. And I do that 3 to 5 times a week. And I feel great. I feel absolutely empowered by my movement. Okay, so I have one more, and that is screen time. Screen time, screen time, screen time. I know technology is huge in our life, and I'm not telling you to cut it out, but I am telling you, take your TV out of your bedroom. What you expose yourself to before you go to sleep influences your sleeping. End of story. Take in less before you go to bed and create a bedtime routine that is soothing, nurturing, and full of self-care. It prepares you on an underlying level for deep, health-promoting sleep. This is another thing that I go into really deeply in my membership, and I give a lot of practices to prepare yourself for bed at night. And the number one thing I have people do is stop watching TV 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed, and especially no violent movies and no news. Like, stay off the news. Like, go to sleep feeling like joyful about life. It's a big thing, and it is possible for us to feel that even in the midst of what we may feel like changing times. So there they are. Those are just 3 lifestyle factors, and there's so many more that I could talk about. But the interest of keeping this podcast not too long, I'm going to stick with those 3. And we talk a lot about them again in my Embrace the Change membership. And I give lots of tips, lots of practices to help women find their way through that, because sometimes they're changing patterns and habits that they've had for many years. But the positive changes that come from it are absolutely profound. Okay, so finally, restoring your vitality and your energy. Number 1, of course, has to be prioritize your sleep. Create habits and patterns that actually restore you, that actually enlivens you, that increases your vitality. Now, there's a ton of research out there that talks about the importance of following your own internal biological rhythm. That means for many, What is very helpful is to go to sleep when the sun goes down and rise when the sun comes up. I know this takes a lot of discipline for people. It works really well for me. Now, I don't go to bed exactly at 5 p.m. in the wintertime, but I go to bed like 9:30 pretty much year round. The summer, it's a little bit more difficult, but I feel best when I go to bed early and get up early. I love getting up before the sun gets up, and it's a beautiful time to meditate. So restoring sleep is the first one. Okay, the second one is nourishing your body. So this is a really big thing I talk about in my membership, and we really get into Ayurveda's perspective on nourishing yourself for sleep and just nourishing your body overall. And what I'm speaking to is, of course, the nutrients that you take in on a day. If you aren't eating a well-balanced diet, I'm going to pause there. If you aren't eating a well-balanced diet, perimenopause and menopause is simply going to be more difficult. It's just the truth. And you get into menopause, so you've made it through perimenopause, and now you're in menopause and your estrogen level significantly drops, you're going to gain weight. And it will be difficult to take off. I have never had problems in my life losing weight. I could eat as much as I wanted to, and if I noticed I started to gain weight, I would exercise more, eat less, and it would go away. Get into menopause. Now my estrogen levels are low. I really struggle losing weight. Again, I stay pretty fit, but I've put on weight that I'd never have put on ever in my life, and I find it very difficult to get off. So nourishing my body, and I love, love, love to talk about nutrient level of food. I really don't pay much attention to protein, carbs. I do pay attention to how much sugar I take in a day. That's a big deal. Anyway, I didn't really want to make this podcast about nutrition, but it absolutely plays into your sleep. So nourish your body, number 2. Okay, number 3 is move your body. It may not be possible for you to get into a formal routine or go to the gym. Maybe that is not available, but everybody can go for a walk, and everybody can go for a walk outside. And finally, seek support. And this can look very different for every woman. At first, I hid. I felt betrayed by my body. I had an immense amount of physical symptoms. I had a lot of heavy bleeding. I had migraine headaches every single month. And that wasn't just a day thing, a 24-hour thing. It was a 48-hour thing. So my life went on hold for 48 hours when I had migraines. I couldn't accept aging. I really struggled. I had to seek support. And I did that in multiple ways. Like I joined my shamanism apprenticeship. That was one of the ways I did it. I meditated more, but I was very careful about my meditation practice because I could find sometimes my meditation practice would actually take me into a deeper, darker place. So I felt grounded. I started to feel actually a greater vitality. I felt more energy, but I also started to have these sort of dark thoughts. So I needed someone that I could trust and I know would support me during this time to go to and talk to. It was huge. It was absolutely huge. I needed someone to help me shift perspective because I just simply couldn't see a different way of looking at things sometimes in that phase. And I really think it was because I was talking myself into the dreads of aging. Like I couldn't find anything good about it. And for so long, it felt like it was never going to happen because I feel really young. And that phase in my life, I didn't feel very young. I felt disempowered 100%. So I had to find support. So that's the last one. Okay, so now we're going to wrap up this podcast today. So fatigue and sleep doesn't have to rule your life. It is just a knock on your door that's trying to get your attention to make some changes. This is a time in life when we may have brushed a lot of things under the rug. And we are being asked to flip the rug and look at these things. We are being asked to rephrase our life. We are being asked to look at life differently. If we ignore that, I think we get to a place in our life where we don't feel very fulfilled. We dread life. We feel disempowered by it, and we continue to feel unworthy of the greatness of life, the greatness of who we really are here to be. So I encourage you to get curious. Get curious about what is behind your exhaustion. When you start to identify what it is, then start to take small, meaningful steps. It doesn't need to happen in one single day, but move towards changing, eliminating, repurposing, uncovering what it is that has brought you to this point. And journal about where you want to go. What feels like meaningful purpose and passion to you in the next phase of your life? You are always 100% creating your life, and you can change that creation at any moment of any day. You may need support to do that, and I would encourage you to find a coach. As you know, that's something that I do. Find maybe there's someone in your church that you could confide in. Find support of somebody that's sort of on the outside that can help you see things from a different perspective, that can help you pull the limits of your beliefs out of what is holding you back and what is exhausting you, because our beliefs, our habits can sometimes absolutely cripple us, and we need others to help guide us into repurposing them. So in closing today, I would love, love, love any comments, any questions that you have about feeling exhausted and feeling so tired. And for my membership that is opening mid-January, called Embrace the Change, and it will contain all of the things that I talk about really in this podcast. Really, life in the middle. What is life in the middle? It's really about community and support. So I will also put a link to that where you can get more information about it. That opens mid-January. So final note, thank you for listening to the end of this podcast. I am learning so much, and I love that you're growing with me, and I can't wait to see you in the next podcast. Bye for now.